Every winter, folks all across this country open an envelope from the power company with a knot in their stomach, dreading the number they'll find inside. Because heating a home has become one of the heaviest costs a family carries. And I want to tell you something that might sound impossible. My family stays warm and snug through the very coldest, harshest winters, and no such envelope ever comes to our door. Not $1 of heating bill, ever. Now the how of it isn't one single trick, and I'll not pretend it is. It comes down to 3 simple rules that my people have lived by for generations. 3 rules that together let a family stay warm through anything without owing a cent to any company. Make your heat cheaply. Keep every bit of the heat you make, and warm the body, not just the building. Learn those 3 rules, and you can be warmer than you've ever been, for a fraction of what you pay now. So let me walk you through each one. Let me start with the first rule, making your heat cheaply, because it's the foundation. For us, that means wood. A good wood stove, or the wood cook stove that heats and cooks both, sits at the heart of our home all winter long. And the reason it costs us no bill is that the wood comes from the land itself, cut by our own hands. A family with woodland, or even just access to fallen and dead trees, has a supply of heat that no company owns and no meter measures. Now I'll be honest with you plainly, the way I always am. It isn't free in the truest sense. It's paid for in labor, and hard labor at that. The cutting, and the hauling, and the splitting, and the stacking. They say firewood warms you twice, once in the cutting, and once in the burning. And anyone who's done it knows that's the honest truth. But that's a price paid in sweat and effort, with your own body, not a bill paid from your wallet month after month. And there's a deep dignity in warming your family by the work of your own hands that I would not trade for all the easy heat in the world. But making heat from wood well takes a knowledge most folks have lost. And the biggest piece of it is this: your wood must be seasoned. That means dried properly for a good long while, usually a year or more after it's split. Green wood, fresh cut wood, still full of sap and water, is near worthless. It hisses and smokes and gives poor heat, and it cakes your chimney with a dangerous tar. So the Wise family is always working a year ahead, cutting and splitting this year for next winter, letting it sit and dry until it burns hot and clean. Dry, seasoned wood gives you twice the warmth and half the trouble of green wood. And you stack it up off the ground so it doesn't draw damp, with the air able to move through it, and the top covered against rain and snow, while the sides stay open to the wind. A full, dry woodshed going into winter is money in the bank, warmth stored up and waiting, and a family that has it does not fear the cold. Now the second rule, and this may be the most important one of all, because most folks pour their heat straight out the walls without ever knowing it. Keep every bit of the heat you make. It does you no good to build a fine, warm fire if all that warmth leaks right out of the house as fast as you make it. And in most homes, that's exactly what happens. So the second rule is all about sealing your home up tight and holding the warmth in. The first enemy is the draft. Cold air sneaking in around the doors and windows. And there's a shocking amount of it in most houses. So you hunt it down and you stop it. Weather stripping around the doors and windows. A draft stopper, a rolled cloth laid against the gap under a door where the cold creeps in. The old folks sewed long stuffed cloth tubes they called draft snakes for just this. Every draft you seal is warmth you keep and money you save. Then there are the windows, which leak heat something terrible, because glass is thin and the cold passes right through it. So the rule is simple. By night, you cover them. Heavy curtains drawn tight over the windows once the sun is down make a real difference, trapping a layer of still air against the cold glass and holding the room's warmth inside. In the bitterest spells, folks would hang quilts right over the windows. But here's the beautiful part, and it's the other side of the same coin. By day, when the sun is out, you throw those curtains wide open on the windows that face the sun, and you let that free sunshine pour in and warm your rooms all day long, not costing you a thing. Then at dusk, before the warmth can flee back out, you close everything up tight to hold it. Open to the sun by day, sealed against the cold by night. That daily rhythm gathers free warmth from the sky and keeps it. And don't forget the floor, for a bare floor pulls the warmth right out of a room and out of your feet. A good rug is a layer of warmth, and the old folks knew a rug was for holding heat every bit as much as for looks. Up above, insulation in the ceiling keeps your heat from floating away through the roof, for heat rises and escapes upward if nothing stops it. And outside, a row of evergreen trees planted against the side the winter wind comes from breaks the force of that bitter wind before it ever reaches your walls. Now the third rule, and this is the one that changes everything, the one the modern world has forgotten so completely it sounds strange to say out loud. Warm the body, not just the building. Here is the great foolishness of the modern way. Folks heat every cubic foot of a great big house, every empty room, day and night, all so they can walk around in a thin shirt in the dead of winter as if it were summer. They're heating enormous volumes of empty air just to keep their own skin warm. It's backwards, and it's terribly wasteful. The old way flips it around. Instead of heating all that empty space to warm the body, you warm the body directly and let the space be cooler. And the first way you do that is the simplest thing in the world. You dress for it. Indoors, good wool, warm layers, a sweater, thick socks, a shawl, or a vest. When your body is dressed warmly, you're comfortable at a far cooler room temperature, which means you need far less heat in the air, which means far less fuel. Put on a sweater instead of turning up the heat. It sounds almost too simple to matter, but it's the very heart of heating cheaply. And you heat where the people are, not the empty rooms. In the coldest months, the family lives in the warm rooms, the kitchen and the main room, and the unused rooms get closed off, their doors shut. No heat wasted on space nobody's sitting in. The bedrooms may be downright cold, and that's just fine, because you don't need a warm room to sleep warm. Which brings me to one of my favorite old comforts. You take a good solid stone or brick, or best of all a piece of soapstone, and you warm it by the fire, wrap it in cloth so it won't burn anything, and tuck it down by your feet in the bed a while before you turn in. That warmed stone takes the chill right off the sheets and keeps your feet toasty for hours as you drift off. Folks have warmed their beds this way for centuries. A warmed stone and a pile of good heavy quilts, and you sleep snug as can be in a cold room, because your own body makes the heat, and the quilts hold it close around you. A cold bedroom and a warm bed is no hardship at all. It's one of the coziest feelings there is. And you warm the body from the inside, too, which folks forget. A mug of something hot in your hands, a warm tea, a bowl of hearty soup, a cup of broth, warms you from the center out and keeps you going through a cold day. The old kitchen with its cook stove and its steaming pots was the warm heart of the winter home for exactly this reason, feeding warmth into the family from the inside and the outside both. There's deep sense in a hot breakfast on a bitter morning. It's fuel for the body's own furnace, and every one of us has one. Our bodies making heat all the time, needing only to be helped along and held close. Now let me go back and add some real practical meat to each of those three rules, because I want to leave you with things you can actually do, not just fine ideas. On making heat, let me tell you about the cook stove in particular, because it's a marvel of getting many jobs from one fire, and that's a huge part of how the old way wastes nothing. Our cook stove doesn't just throw heat into the kitchen, it cooks every meal on top of doing that. It bakes the bread, it heats the water for washing and for the dishes and the baths. So the very same armload of wood that warms the house is also cooking the supper and heating the wash water, all at once from one fire. Think about that against the modern way, where where there's a furnace burning fuel for heat, and a separate water heater burning more for hot water, and a separate stove for cooking, each one sending its own bill. The old way is all one fire, doing the work of 3 or 4. And there's a wisdom in the heavy iron and stone of these stoves too, what folks nowadays call thermal mass. A great heavy stove, or one built round with brick or stone, soaks up heat while the fire burns hot, then keeps giving that warmth back out, slow and steady, for hours after the fire's died to coals. So a fire's worth of heat lasts far longer than the fire itself. Heavy things hold heat. The old way used that everywhere it could, and it's the very same reason a warmed stone keeps your bed cozy half the night. On keeping the heat, here's a thing worth knowing that most folks never think of. In a house you're heating with one stove, you want to help that warmth move to where you need it and stay where you've put it. So you learn the ways of your house, which doors to leave open to let the warmth drift to the rooms you're using, which to shut to hold it in. A house heated the old way is a house you're always reading, always tending, closing this, opening that, following the warmth. It's a small daily art, but it means you get every bit of good from every stick of wood. And I'll add this. In the very coldest weather, the family draws in close, into the one warm room, and there's no shame and no hardship in that. There's a deep coziness to a family gathered close in a warm kitchen while the wind howls outside, all of you together in the glow of the stove. The modern way, with everyone spread out in their own separately heated rooms, lost something real when it gained all that space. Warmth gathers people, and gathered people are a warmth of their own. On warming the body, let me press the point about clothing a little harder, because it's the cheapest, easiest change anyone can make, and folks resist it out of habit. We've somehow got the notion that a proper house in winter should be warm enough to wear summer clothes in, and that anything less means we're doing without. But that's backwards. For all of human history, until just lately, folks dressed warmly indoors in winter as a matter of course and thought nothing of it, and were perfectly comfortable in homes far cooler than we keep ours. A wool sweater is worth more than several degrees on any thermostat, and it costs you nothing to run. Good wool socks, a warm layer under your clothes, something around your shoulders of an evening, and you'll be snug in a room that would have you shivering in a thin shirt. It's not doing without. It's the sensible way round, warming the 6 feet of you instead of the 10,000 cubic feet of empty air around you. I remember the winter mornings of my boyhood so clearly. Coming down before light into a kitchen where the stove had been banked through the night and was still giving off its steady warmth. The whole room snug and glowing, while the world outside was frozen hard and white. My mother would stir the coals and feed the fire, and soon the kitchen was warm as summer, and the smell of breakfast filled the house. We'd dress by that stove and eat by that stove, and the cold of our unheated bedrooms was already forgotten, chased off by a warm stone in the night and a warm kitchen in the morning. That warm kitchen is one of the safest, deepest memories of my whole childhood, and it never cost a single dollar of bill. It cost my father's labor at the woodpile and my mother's care at the stove, and it was worth every bit of that honest work. That's the kind of warmth these 3 rules give you, and it's the kind you can build for your own family. Now I have to stop and speak to you very seriously for a spell, because wood heat, for all its goodness, must be respected, and there are real dangers I would never let you go without knowing. This is the honest neighbor in me, and I'd not forgive myself if I told you how to heat with wood and left out how to do it safely. The first danger is the chimney. When you burn wood, especially wood that isn't well seasoned, a tarry stuff called creosote builds up inside the chimney, and that creosote can catch fire, and a chimney fire can burn your whole house to the ground. So you must keep your chimney clean, checked and cleaned regularly, at least once a year and more if you burn a lot. Burning dry, seasoned wood makes far less of it, which is one more reason it matters. Never neglect this. The second danger is worse because it's silent. When you burn anything indoors, it must be properly vented to the outside, always, because a fire that isn't venting right can fill a home with a poison you cannot see or smell, and it can take a whole family in their sleep. Your stove must be set up and vented right, the smoke going up and out as it should, and it is a wise and good thing to have a detector that warns of that invisible danger, for it has saved many lives. Never block up your venting to trap more heat. The air must move, and keep the plain safety sense too. Anything that can burn kept well away from a hot stove, a way to put out a fire close at hand, and the children taught to respect it. Respect the fire in these ways, and wood heat is safe and good. Be careless, and it's deadly. I tell you this because I want you warm, but I want you safe far more. And let me give you one more old trick for keeping the heat. One the old houses were often built around. It's the idea of a buffer between the warm inside and the cold outside, so the cold never hits your warm rooms straight on. The old farmhouses often had a mud room or an enclosed porch by the main door, a little cold room you passed through before you reached the warm heart of the house. And that cold in-between space acted like a pocket of still air, a buffer, so that opening the outer door let the cold into that buffer room, but not straight into your warm kitchen. It's the same reason you don't want a door opening right from the cold outdoors into the room where you live. If your home has such a space, use it. Keep that inner door shut and let the buffer do its work. And if it doesn't, you can make a small version with a heavy curtain hung across a drafty entryway or a cold hall, closing off the coldest parts of the house from the warm ones. The old folks hung heavy door curtains in winter for exactly this. A thick curtain over a doorway to hold the warmth in one room and the cold in another. These little barriers, a buffer room, a door curtain, a closed-off cold hall, all do the same quiet work, keeping the warmth you've made where you want it and the cold where it belongs. It's all of a piece with the whole second rule. Make your heat, then guard it like the treasure it is, with every barrier and every closed door you can manage. So let me draw the three rules back together, plain and simple. Make your heat cheaply, with wood cut by your own labor and seasoned a year or more so it burns hot and clean. Keep every bit of the heat you make by sealing every draft, covering your windows against the night and opening them to the sun by day, laying down rugs, insulating the ceiling, and planting a windbreak against the wind. And warm the body, not the building, by dressing warmly indoors, heating only where the people are, warming your bed with a stone and heavy quilts, and warming yourself from the inside with hot food and drink. 3 rules. Woven together, they let a family stay warm through the hardest winter, owing not 1 cent to any company, and beholden to no one for the warmth of their own home. And here's what I most want you to carry away. Even if you'll never own a wood stove or a stick of woodland, so much of this is yours to use right now, today, wherever you live. You can put on a sweater instead of reaching for the thermostat. You can close off the rooms you don't use. You can warm a stone for your bed and pile on the quilts. You can stop your drafts, cover your windows by night, and open them to the sun by day. Lay a rug on a cold floor and warm yourself with a hot bowl of soup. You may not get your heating bill all the way to nothing like we do, but I promise you can cut it down a great deal, and be cozier in the doing of it. Because at the bottom of it all is the same truth that runs through everything my people believe, that comfort need not come from a machine and a monthly bill. That with a little knowledge, a little effort, and a little wisdom handed down from those who came before, a family can provide its own warmth, its own comfort, its own security, from what's around them and within them. There's a peace in a home warmed by your own hands, by wood you cut and a fire you tend, and a house you've made snug against the cold, that goes deeper than the body. It warms the very soul to know you can keep your family safe and warm through any winter free. So this winter, try a little of the old way. Live by the 3 rules. Be warmer for less and freer for it. And remember that the knowledge of how to keep a home warm through any winter was never truly lost. It's just banked, like coals under the ash, waiting for someone to stir it back to a flame. If this is the kind of practical old wisdom you've been hungry for, the kind that got set aside and forgotten, then stay here with me. There's so much more where this came from, and I aim to bring it back to you, one piece at a time. Subscribe, and we'll keep remembering the old ways together, because some of the most important things we ever knew are the simple ones we let ourselves forget, and the warmth of them is waiting for us still.